Good day, Roelf Woldring of The Right Talent. So we at The Right Talent are now offering training program development services. And I lead that practice, and I call myself a training architect. And that's a relatively new phrase in the industry. This short video presentation explores the idea of training architect and talks about why using such an individual is so important in the development of training programs. Now, we all know why we use building architects, because they're committed through the way that they engage in their practice with clients to producing buildings and results that have high use value and great return on investment. But at the same time, architects are disciplined creatives. They're personally very creative, but they combine that creativity with an ability to meet the requirements of technical codes, building codes, technical standards, and specifications. Well, training architects have to do the same thing. They have to be committed to producing training programs, whether they're face-to-face or e-learning or some combination of the two, that have high use value and high return on investments for their clients. And they also have to be highly creative in the process of doing that, but they must meet the technical requirements of adult development, instructional design, and the software computer specifications of the delivery systems that they use to deliver those programs to learners. So why am I a training architect? What distinguishes me from many of the other people who provide training development services? First of all, I've got formal postgraduate training in workplace psychology, adult development, and instructional design. I add to that many years of real experience making investments in training, both soft skill and technical skill training for the people that I had working for me, and learning over time how to get real return from that investment. Of course, as an IT leader and a business executive, I have a great deal of complex program and project management experience. And I've been developing in the last couple of years e-learning programs which are available on my e-learning platform, but I also have a history of developing professional development face-to-face programs and delivering them. And finally, since today, we often do this work in a virtual environment using virtual teams, I have practical experience having managed my first virtual team decades ago. But I also guide my work by a series of frameworks, just like architect does, a series of technical codes and specifications. In this case, ones which are focused on effective training development in the workplace, effective skill development in the workplace. And we're going to look very briefly at each one of those 12 frameworks. And when I say briefly, I mean briefly, because each one could very well be the content or the subject of a video presentation in its own right. And the first one just has to do with framing a training development project, knowing what the work elements are and how they relate to one another. Because often training programs, whether they're e-learning or face-to-face, are developed by multiple individuals working on different parts of the program, and they need an understanding of how to relate what each person does to the work of the other people. But it's also usually a program or a project of some kind, and that project has to have a set of phases, whether they're for an e-learning program, which is what's shown here, or for a face-to-face training program. And by having such a framework, everyone's clear, both on the development team side, but also on the subject matter expert and client side of who does what when. And of course, it's all about getting return on investment. I've learned the hard way by spending more than a few $1,000, in fact, spending millions of dollars on both technical training and soft skill training for my staff, that these 5 principles must be taken into account in the design of workplace training in order to generate that return on investment. The know that, know how, know why model of knowledge is an essential framework for all of the people working on a training program development project to share so that they understand how individuals learn and how the elements of knowledge, knowing that, ideas, facts, and concepts, knowing how to, having the ability to do things, particularly how to develop smart full mind-body habits for people, and knowing why, understanding why to do certain things and why not do other things. And of course, if a workplace training program is going to be effective, it must have elements which address all of the various learning styles that individuals bring to that program. And I've been using David Kolb's learning style model and my own development style model to frame this work for decades now and produce very effective results. 20% of the skills get us through 80% of the situations. And so when we develop training programs, we have to understand, are we developing for normal workplace conditions, or are we developing for conditions in which stress, conflict, and delivery pressure are a normal part of the situation? Managers in particular, and project managers in particular, are constantly working under conditions of stress, conflict, and delivery pressure. And so we need to understand that skill development for these situations needs to build on the 20% of the skills which get all of us through 80% of the normal situations. And of course, we also need to understand how individuals acquire, in particular, soft skills, but technical skills as well, what adult development really consists of. And we need a common framework for understanding that. And the sports skill model is one that we all implicitly inquire as part of the growing up and education that we do. And therefore, it's very useful to use this model as a framework for helping individuals acquire more complex workplace skills. Skills are layered, and the managerial skill model makes this so very clear in the sense that the outer skills build upon the inner skills. This is a great framework for understanding how managerial skill differentiates from other workplace soft skills, but also for understanding how skill development must be layered so that more complex skills build upon prior ones in the learning program. Finally, we need to understand that skilled behavior happens in the moment. Skilled individuals have smart habits which allow them to respond immediately and spontaneously to the workplace behavior they experience from other people around them. And we need to understand that there is a development sequence that people need to go through in order to develop such smart habits and become, in fact, experts back on the job. We've known for decades, and this National Training Laboratories graphic explains it so well, that lecture is the least effective way of helping people develop skills. People who develop training programs must think about how do we use all of the different elements of the learning pyramid in order to increase learning retention and therefore increase the possibility of skill transfer back to the job. And the Center for Creative Leadership has focused on this issue so precisely in the mid-1990s with its 70-20 skill development model for soft skills. And this model really points out that it's not until the individual transfers the skill back to the job and is supported in that process that skill development investment really pays off. Of course, over the past decades of implementing the 70-20 model, we've learned that it's not just replacing one kind of skill development with another. It's not replacing structured training and social learning with on-the-job learning. In fact, it's using structured training and social learning as a fulcrum for on-the-job learning that we really get effective payback from investing in management development training. I've used a number of schematics and images in this presentation. They've either been developed by me or they come from a variety of sources. If you are interested in more information about how I provide training architecture services to my clients, please contact me. And if you're interested in the elements of my current e-learning program portfolio, please visit the knowthatknowhowknowwhy.com website. At any point, you can reach out to me and get a coupon code which will allow you review access to any of the programs there or the future ones that will be coming